My name is Olivia Chen. I'm 28 years old. Now let me take you back to where it all started. They were in the living room. Dad was reading the Wall Street Journal. Mom was scrolling through her phone. Madison was painting her nails on the couch. I got into Stanford. I held up the letter. Full scholarship, 4 years.
Mom glanced up.
It's Stanford, Mom. Stanford, this is my dream.
She looked back at her phone. California is far away.
But the scholarship covers everything. I won't cost you a penny.
Dad turned a page of his newspaper. Who's going to help around the house?
I grew up in Seattle, Washington, Capitol Hill neighborhood. A 4-bedroom house with a wraparound porch and a perfectly manicured lawn. I stood there letter in hand waiting for something. A hug, a smile, a congratulations, anything.
Madison looked up from her nails. Can you move? You're blocking my light.
I stepped aside. That was it. That was the entire reaction to the biggest achievement of my life. 3 days later, Madison got her college results. She had applied to 5 schools. She got rejected from 4. The only one that accepted her was a community college 20 minutes from our house. I expected disappointment, maybe some tough love, a conversation about working harder. Instead, my parents threw her a celebration dinner at a steakhouse downtown. 20 guests, filet mignon, a toast to Madison's bright future.
Community college is a smart choice, Dad announced, raising his glass. She'll save money and find her path.
From the outside, we looked like the ideal American family. 2 parents, 2 daughters, a golden retriever named Biscuit. Christmas lights every December, a minivan in the driveway.
Mom nodded. Not everyone needs to go far away. Madison is mature enough to know what's best for her.
Mature. Madison who couldn't do her own laundry. Madison who had never held a job. Madison who spent $400 a month on makeup and called it self-care. But she was the mature one. I sat at that dinner table watching my parents celebrate my sister's failure while my success gathered dust on the kitchen counter. The next morning, I found my Stanford acceptance letter in the recycling bin. I pulled it out, smoothed the creases, and hid it in my desk drawer where no one would throw it away again. That night, I made a decision. I would go to Stanford, I would leave this house, I would build a life where my achievements mattered, even if only to myself. But there was one person who made sure I knew my worth before I left. One person who never forgot my birthday. One person who saw me when everyone else looked through me. But inside those walls, there were 2 different worlds. One for my twin sister Madison, and one for me. My grandfather Harold Mitchell. The worst part wasn't what they said. It was what happened 3 days later. 3 days after the celebration dinner for Madison, I discovered something that broke me in a way I didn't know was possible. I was looking for my birth certificate. Stanford needed it for enrollment paperwork. Mom kept all our important documents in a filing cabinet in her home office. I found my birth certificate easily enough, but next to it was a folder I had never seen before. It was labeled Education Fund. I opened it. Inside were bank statements, years of them. An account in Madison's name opened when we were born. The balance, as of that month, $120,000. $120,000, saved over 18 years, for Madison's education. I flipped through every page looking for another account, looking for my name. My father, Richard Chen, was a chief financial officer at a major investment firm downtown. He wore tailored suits, drove a Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and spoke in numbers. Quarterly reports, stock portfolios, return on investment. There was nothing. I searched the entire cabinet, every folder, every envelope, every slip of paper. No education fund for Olivia, not a single dollar set aside. My hands were shaking when I walked into the kitchen. "Mom!" My voice cracked. "What is this?"
She looked at the bank statement in my hand. Her face didn't change. That's Madison's college fund.
"I know. Where's mine?" Silence. "Mom, where is my college fund?" He looked at everything and everyone through the lens of value.
She sighed like I was being dramatic. We couldn't afford to save for both of you, Olivia. You've always been more independent. We knew you'd figure it out.
You saved $120,000 for Madison, and nothing for me.
Madison needs more support. You don't.
She's going to community college. Tuition is $3,000 a semester.
Mom's eyes turned cold. Don't raise your voice at me.
I got into Stanford, Mom. Stanford, and you didn't save a single penny for me.
You have a scholarship.
She turned back to her laptop. I never had much value to him.
You'll be fine. You always are.
I stood there for a long time. I don't know how long. The kitchen clock ticked, the refrigerator hummed, the world kept spinning. But something inside me cracked that day. a small fracture that would only grow wider with time. Stanford covered tuition, but I still needed $8,000 a year for living expenses, books, food, transportation, basic necessities that the scholarship didn't cover. I asked my father for help, just a loan. I would pay it back.
He didn't look up from his computer. You're an adult now, Olivia. Figure it out yourself.
So I did. I worked 3 jobs during my 4 years at Stanford. Waitressing at a diner from 6 to 10 in the morning, tutoring high school students in the afternoon, working as a library assistant at night. I slept an average of 4 hours per night for 4 years. My mother, Linda Chen, managed a real estate agency. She was beautiful, polished, always in control. She knew exactly what to say at dinner parties. She knew exactly how to smile for photographs. She knew exactly how to make people believe our family was perfect. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in biology. I got accepted into medical school. My parents didn't come to my graduation. They were too busy taking Madison on a trip to Hawaii, a stress relief vacation after she dropped out of community college in her 2nd year. But there was one person who came. My grandfather, Harold Mitchell. Grandpa Harold was my mother's father. He lived in Portland, Oregon, a 4-hour drive from Seattle. He was a retired federal judge, a widower, and the only person in my family who ever made me feel like I mattered. He was 78 years old. His knees were bad. His doctor had told him not to make long trips. But on my college graduation day, he drove 4 hours alone just to watch me walk across that stage. When I saw him in the audience, this frail old man with tears streaming down his cheeks, I almost broke down right there on stage. After the ceremony, we sat together on a bench outside the auditorium. He held my hand like he used to when I was a little girl. She also knew exactly how to make me feel invisible.
I'm so proud of you, Olivia.
His voice trembled.
You have no idea how proud.
Thank you for coming, Grandpa. I leaned my head on his shoulder. You're the only one who did. He was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope.
This is for you.
Inside was $5,000 in cash and a handwritten letter. I started to read it, but he stopped me. Then there was Madison, my twin sister. We were fraternal twins born on the same day, but we looked nothing alike. Madison had Mom's delicate features, her big brown eyes, her perfect cheekbones. People always said she could be a model.
Not now.
He closed my hands around the envelope.
Read it when you're alone, and remember every word.
Grandpa, I can't take this money.
You can, and you will.
His eyes were fierce despite his age.
This world has not been fair to you, Olivia. Your parents have not been fair to you. But I need you to know something.
He gripped my hands tighter.
It is not your fault. It has never been your fault. There are things you don't know yet. Things I cannot tell you now, but one day you will understand.
What things? Grandpa, what are you talking about? 3 weeks ago, I sat in a lawyer's office in Portland, holding a piece of paper that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. I had a rounder face, ordinary eyes, a nose that was slightly too wide. People rarely said anything about my appearance at all.
He shook his head. Not yet. When the time comes, you'll know. Just promise me one thing.
Anything.
Never let them make you believe you're not worthy of love, because you are.
His voice cracked.
You are the most worthy person I know.
He pulled out a small wooden box from his bag. It was old, carved with intricate patterns, small enough to fit in my palm.
Keep this safe. Don't open it yet. When you need it, truly need it, you'll know what to do.
I took the box. It was surprisingly heavy for its size. What's inside? Madison was the sun. I was the shadow she cast. He smiled, a sad, knowing smile.
The truth.
That was the last time I saw my grandfather alive. He passed away 4 years later during my final year of medical school. A heart attack. Quick and painless, the doctors said. I flew to Portland for his funeral. My parents were there. Madison was there. We sat in the same row but didn't speak. After the service, a lawyer approached me. Robert Walsh. He handed me a business card.
Miss Chen, your grandfather left specific instructions regarding his estate, but the will cannot be opened yet.
What do you mean?
He specified conditions. The will is to be read only when you turn 28 years old and are no longer in contact with your immediate family.
I stared at him. The first time I realized something was wrong, I was 6 years old. I was standing in our living room looking at the photo wall. Why?
I don't know, Miss Chen, but when the time comes, please contact me.
I put the card in my wallet and forgot about it. Until 2 months ago. He handed me a small wooden box.
Don't open this yet, he said. When you need it, you'll know.
I had no idea what he meant, but I would. 10 years passed. I built a life, a real life, one that had nothing to do with my family. 43 frames. I counted them. I counted them many times over the years. I finished medical school at the top of my class. I completed my residency in cardiology at Seattle Grace Hospital. I worked 80-hour weeks, saved every penny, and never asked anyone for help. By the time I was 28, I was a third-year cardiology fellow making $70,000 a year. Not rich by Seattle standards, but enough. Enough to rent a small one-bedroom apartment in Ballard. Enough to buy groceries without checking my bank account. Enough to feel like I had finally made it. I had friends. Real friends. Rachel, my colleague and best friend, who always remembered my birthday. Dr. Williams, my mentor, who pushed me to be better every single day. James, my boyfriend of 2 years, a software engineer at Amazon, who looked at me like I was the most important person in the world. I had a life worth living. But there was still a hole, a space that ached when I thought about it too long. The place where family should have been. I hadn't spoken to my parents in months. Our conversations had dwindled to obligatory holiday texts, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, nothing more. Madison had blocked me on social media years ago after I declined to lend her $5,000 for a business opportunity that was obviously a pyramid scheme. I told myself I was fine, I had moved on, I didn't need them. Then March 14th came around. Our birthday, mine and Madison's, 28 years old. I was at the hospital, finishing a 16-hour shift, when my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Madison was in 41 of those photos. Center position, bright smile, perfect lighting. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it.
Madison's birthday party tonight at our house. 7 p.m. Can you come? She wants a big turnout.
That was it. No happy birthday, Olivia. No hope you're doing well. Just an invitation to my sister's party on our shared birthday. I should have ignored it. I should have turned off my phone, gone home, and celebrated with James and Rachel like I had planned. But something pulled at me, that old familiar hope, the one I thought I had buried years ago. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe they had changed. I was in 2. Maybe they finally saw me. I texted back, I'll try to make it. I didn't go home to change. I didn't have time. I drove straight from the hospital in my scrubs blue surgical pants, a wrinkled white coat sneakers that had seen better days. When I pulled up to my parents' house in Bellevue, I barely recognized it. They had moved 3 years ago, and I had only been there twice, both times for less than an hour. The house was enormous. 5 bedrooms, 3-car garage, a manicured lawn that probably cost more to maintain than my monthly rent. Cars lined the street, BMWs, Teslas, a Porsche, Madison's crowd. I walked up the driveway, my heart pounding in my chest. Through the windows I could see people, 50 maybe more, laughing, dancing, holding champagne glasses. I rang the doorbell.
Madison opened it.
In one, I stood at the edge of a family portrait, half my face cropped out by the frame. In the other, I was in the background of Madison's 7th birthday party, a blur behind the cake. She looked me up and down, her lip curled.
Oh my God.
She didn't bother hiding her disgust.
You came in scrubs, seriously?
I just got off a 16-hour shift. I didn't have time to...
Whatever.
She turned and walked away, leaving the door open.
Try not to embarrass me.
I stepped inside. The living room was decorated like a nightclub. Streamers, balloons, a DJ in the corner playing music so loud I could feel it in my chest. A banner hung across the wall in glittering gold letters. Happy birthday, Madison.
Mommy.
Just Madison. Not Madison and Olivia. Just Madison. I scanned the room for my parents. Mom was by the bar, laughing with a group of women in designer dresses. Dad was in the corner, nursing a whiskey, looking bored. Neither of them came to greet me. I found an empty corner and stood there watching, waiting, for what I didn't know. A woman I didn't recognize approached the bar near me. She was talking to another guest, gesturing toward Madison. She's so glamorous, the woman said. Does she have any siblings? The other woman shrugged. I asked that day. Technically, I think, but they're not close. Technically. I was technically Madison's sister. Technically part of this family. Technically alive. I pulled out my phone and texted Rachel. I don't know why I came. Her response was immediate. Leave, now, come to my place, we have cake. I was about to reply when I heard the DJ cut the music.
Why aren't there more pictures of me?
Everyone, attention, please. The room fell silent. 50 faces turned toward my mother, who was standing by the fireplace with a champagne glass in her hand.
I want to make a toast, Mom announced, her voice carrying across the room. To the most important person in my life.
She smiled at Madison, who was standing beside her, glowing.
Madison, my darling. From the day you were born, I knew you were special. March 14th. The best day of my life.
I stood frozen in my corner. March 14th. The day I was born, too.
You are my light. Mom continued, her eyes glistening.
It was a paternity test, and attached to it was a letter from my grandfather, a man who had been dead for 4 years.
Mom barely looked up from her magazine. My joy. My reason for believing in love.
She raised her glass higher.
To my one and only daughter. Happy birthday, Madison.
One and only daughter. The words echoed in my skull. One and only. 50 people raised their glasses. Happy birthday, Madison. Cheers, applause, laughter. I stood there invisible while my mother erased me from existence in front of 50 strangers.
You don't like having your picture taken, Olivia.
Something shifted inside me. Something that would never shift back. That night I made a decision, the easiest decision of my life. One and only daughter. The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt my legs moving before my brain caught up. One step, then another, then another. I walked out of my corner, into the center of the room. 50 pairs of eyes slowly turned toward me. Mom! My voice was quiet, but in the sudden silence it carried.
Mom's smile faltered.
But I did. I remember asking to be in the Christmas photos every year. I remember posing with my best smile, hoping someone would notice.
Olivia, not now.
You just said one and only daughter. The room went still. The DJ had stopped the music. 50 strangers were staring at me, this disheveled woman in wrinkled scrubs standing in the middle of a glamorous party.
Olivia, please.
Mom's voice was tight.
We can talk about this later.
No. The word came out stronger than I expected. We've been talking about it later for 28 years. I'm done waiting.
Madison stepped forward, her face twisted with anger.
No one ever did.
What are you doing? This is my party.
It's my birthday too, Madison. I looked at her. Or did you forget, like everyone else in this room?
Nobody cares about your birthday.
Madison's voice dripped with venom.
You're not even supposed to be here. Mom only invited you to fill the head count.
Fill the head count. I let those words sink in. Fill the head count. The camera was always pointed at Madison. That was my purpose. That had always been my purpose. I turned back to Mom. Is that true? Mom said nothing. Her silence was answer enough. 28 years. My voice cracked, but I kept going. 28 birthdays. And not once did you celebrate me. Not once did you look at me the way you look at her.
Olivia, you're being dramatic.
Dad's voice cut in from across the room. He hadn't moved from his corner, hadn't even put down his whiskey. When we were 8, my parents decided to renovate the house. Madison got the old master bedroom, 200 square feet, with an ensuite bathroom, a walk-in closet, and a 50-inch TV mounted on the wall. Her windows overlooked the garden, and in spring she could see the cherry blossoms bloom.
This isn't the time or place.
Then when is the time, Dad? I turned to face him. When is the place? Because I've been waiting my entire life for you to see me, to acknowledge that I exist, to treat me like I matter.
You do matter.
Mom's voice was strained.
We love you both equally.
Equally? I laughed. It was a hollow sound. Madison had a surprise party with 30 guests when we turned 15. I got a stale cupcake from Safeway, alone, in my room. I got the smallest room in the house, 90 square feet, right next to the laundry room. Every night I fell asleep to the rhythmic thump of the dryer. Every morning I woke up to the smell of detergent.
That's not...
Madison's college fund had $120,000. Mine had nothing, not a single penny.
You had a scholarship.
I worked 3 jobs for 4 years to survive, Mom. 3 jobs. I slept 4 hours a night. I almost destroyed my health. And you saved $120,000 for a girl who dropped out of community college after 1 year. The room was deathly quiet. I could feel the weight of 50 stares, some curious, some uncomfortable, some pitying. I didn't care anymore. Madison got Hawaii vacations while I ate ramen in my dorm room. Madison got designer bags while I wore secondhand clothes. Madison got Christmas presents worth thousands while I got $20 gift cards. And you know what? I accepted it. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I was the problem. I told myself that if I just worked harder, achieved more, maybe you would finally love me. Tears were streaming down my face now. I didn't bother wiping them. I got into Stanford. You threw my acceptance letter in the trash. I graduated summa cum laude. You went to Hawaii with her. I became a doctor. You didn't even ask what hospital I work at.
Madison needs more space.
I took a shaky breath. And tonight you stood in front of 50 people and called her your one and only daughter. Like I don't exist. Like I never existed. Mom's face was pale. Dad's jaw was clenched. Madison was crying performatively, dramatically, making sure everyone saw.
Olivia,
Mom whispered.
you're making a scene.
Good. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand. For once in my life, I'm making a scene. For once, I'm not being quiet. I'm not being small. I'm not being invisible. I looked around the room, at the strangers, at the decorations, at the banner that only had one name. Mom explained when I asked why. Then I looked back at my family. I'm done.
Madison scoffed. Done with what, your tantrum?
Done with you, all of you. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my car keys. From this moment on, I don't have a family. I don't have parents. I don't have a sister. You've treated me like a ghost for 28 years. Now I'll make it official.
Olivia, you can't just...
Mom reached for my arm. I stepped back.
She has more friends coming over. She has more activities. You understand, right?
Don't touch me.
We're your family.
Family doesn't make you feel worthless. Family doesn't forget your birthday. Family doesn't erase you from existence. I walked toward the door. My legs were shaking, but I kept moving.
If you walk out that door,
Dad's voice was ice cold.
don't bother coming back.
I stopped, my hand on the doorknob. For a moment, just a moment, I hesitated. 28 years of hoping, 28 years of trying, 28 years of believing that someday, somehow, they would love me. Then I remembered Mom's words. His words still echo in my mind. You are the only biological child of both your parents. Your twin sister is not. And that is exactly why they never loved you. I nodded. I always nodded. One and only daughter. I opened the door. Goodbye. I stepped out into the cold night air. The door clicked shut behind me. I walked to my car, got inside, started the engine. And then I broke. I sobbed. Ugly, heaving sobs that shook my entire body. I cried for the 6-year-old who counted photo frames. I cried for the 15-year-old who ate birthday cupcakes alone. I cried for the 18-year-old whose acceptance letter ended up in the trash. I cried for 28 years of silence. But somewhere in the middle of those tears, something else emerged. Relief.
Can I at least have a nightlight?
For the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. I had spoken my truth. I had walked away. And I was free. What they didn't know was that I had already made my move. And there was no going back. The weeks after Madison's party were the hardest of my life. Not because I missed my family, I didn't. But because for the first time I had to confront a terrifying truth. I had spent 28 years seeking approval from people who would never give it. I had built my entire identity around being good enough for them. Now that I had let go, I didn't know who I was anymore. I asked. My room had no windows facing the street, so it was completely dark at night. Rachel saved me. She showed up at my apartment the night I walked out of that party. She didn't ask questions. She just held me while I cried, ordered pizza, and stayed until 3 in the morning. You did the right thing, she said before she left. And one day you'll believe that. She was right. It just took time. Slowly, I rebuilt myself. I threw myself into my work. Cardiology had always been my passion, the precision of it, the stakes, the ability to literally save lives. I worked harder than ever, not to prove anything to anyone, but because I loved it. My supervisors noticed. 3 months after the party, Dr. Williams called me into his office. Olivia. I have news. He slid a folder across his desk. Cleveland Clinic wants you for their interventional cardiology fellowship. I stared at him. Cleveland Clinic, that's the top cardiac program in the country.
Dad looked at me like I had asked for $1,000.
In the world, he corrected. And they specifically requested you. Your research on minimally invasive valve repair caught their attention. I opened the folder. The offer letter was inside. A 2-year fellowship. $150,000 a year. Full benefits. A guaranteed position as attending physician upon completion. This is real. My voice was barely a whisper. Dr. Williams smiled. You've earned it, Olivia. Every bit of it. That night I called James. I got into Cleveland Clinic. Silence on the other end. Then, oh my God, live. That's incredible. It means moving to Ohio. I know. It means leaving Seattle, leaving you.
You're 8 years old, Olivia. Grow up.
Olivia. His voice was firm. I work remotely. I can work from anywhere. And even if I couldn't, I would figure it out. Because you are more important than any job. more important than any city. I started crying, again, but this time they were happy tears. You'd move for me. I'd move to the moon for you. He paused. But please don't get a fellowship on the moon. Ohio is far enough. I laughed through my tears. For the first time in months, I felt light. Everything was falling into place. I sold my tiny Ballard apartment and bought a house in Cleveland. Nothing extravagant, a 3-bedroom craftsman with a small garden in the back. $450,000. I paid in cash from my savings. No loans, no help, just 10 years of hard work and careful planning. James moved in with me 2 months later. We adopted a rescue dog named Biscuit, yes, the same name as my childhood dog. It felt like reclaiming something that had been taken from me. My fellowship started in September. It was brutal long hours, complex cases, constant learning. But I thrived. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who respected me, who valued my opinions, who saw me. Madison had a chandelier in her room. A chandelier. She was also 8. I published 3 research papers in my first year. I was invited to speak at a national cardiology conference. The Seattle Times featured me in their 30 Under 30 Rising Stars in Medicine issue. I still have that article framed in my office. Meanwhile, I heard bits and pieces about my family through distant relatives. Madison's influencer career had collapsed. 5 years of posting selfies and sponsored content, and she had barely 2,000 followers. Her credit card debt had ballooned to $60,000. She was 30 years old, living with our parents, with no job and no prospects. Mom and Dad were fighting constantly. Something about money, something about lies. The details were vague, but the picture was clear. The perfect family was crumbling. I felt nothing when I heard these things. No satisfaction, no pity, just indifference. They were strangers now. Their problems were not mine. Then my 29th birthday arrived. March 14th, the day that had always been a reminder of my invisibility. But this year was different. But I learned not to compare. Comparing only made it hurt more. James planned a surprise party at our house. 30 people, colleagues from the hospital, friends from Seattle who flew, and neighbors who had become like family. When I walked through the door and saw them all standing there, I burst into tears. "Happy birthday, Olivia," they shouted in unison. The cake was chocolate, my favorite. The frosting read, "Happy birthday, Olivia, you are enough." You are enough. 4 words I had waited my entire life to hear. Rachel flew in from Seattle. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "You made it, Liv." She pulled back, her eyes glistening. "You really made it. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have," she smiled. "But I'm glad you didn't have to." I learned to make myself small, to need less, to take up less space, both physically and emotionally. That night, after everyone left, James and I sat in the garden. Biscuit was asleep at our feet. The stars were bright above us. "This is the first real birthday party I've ever had," I said quietly. James took my hand. Then we have a lot of catching up to do. I used to wish someone would remember me. I looked up at the sky. I used to blow out candles alone and pray for it. And now, I smiled. Now I don't have to wish anymore. For the first time in my life, I had everything I needed. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Inside was something that would destroy everything they thought they knew. The call came at 7:15 in the morning. At dinner, Madison sat next to Mom. I sat at the corner of the table closest to the kitchen. It was easier that way, Mom said. Someone needed to fetch things. I was getting ready for work coffee in one hand, phone in the other. The number was from Portland. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up.
Miss Olivia Chen.
Speaking.
This is Robert Walsh. I'm an estate attorney in Portland, Oregon. We spoke briefly 4 years ago at your grandfather's funeral.
My heart stopped. I remember.
Miss Chen, your grandfather Harold Mitchell left very specific instructions regarding his estate. The will was to remain sealed until you turned 28 years old and were no longer in contact with your immediate family. He paused. My records indicate both conditions have been met.
That someone was always me. I sat down slowly. My legs felt weak. How do you know I'm not in contact with my family?
Your grandfather anticipated this. He left instructions for me to verify through various means. I've confirmed that you have not had meaningful contact with your parents or sister for several months.
Grandpa Harold. Even from beyond the grave, he was watching over me. What happens now?
Now, Miss Chen, we read the will. Can you come to Portland this week? There are matters that require your physical presence.
I flew to Portland. 3 days later. The law office of Walsh & Associates was located in a historic building downtown. Dark wood paneling, leather chairs, the smell of old books and expensive cologne. Robert Walsh was a silver-haired man in his 60s with kind eyes and a firm handshake.
Before we begin, he said I should inform you that your mother, father, and sister have also been summoned. They're waiting in the conference room.
18 years. 18 birthday cakes I watched from across the room. 18 times I blew out candles alone in my bedroom while my twin sister celebrated downstairs with 50 guests.
Olivia, get the salt.
My stomach dropped. What?
Your grandfather requested that certain portions of the will be read in the presence of all parties. I understand this may be uncomfortable, but it was his explicit wish.
I hadn't seen my family in almost a year. Hadn't spoken to them since the night I walked out. But I had come this far. I wasn't going to turn back now. Let's go. The conference room was large and cold. A long mahogany table dominated the space, surrounded by leather chairs. My parents sat on one side. Mom looked older, tired. Dad's hair had gone grayer. Neither of them looked at me when I entered. Madison sat at the end, arms crossed, glaring at the wall. She had gained weight. Her designer clothes looked rumpled. The polish was gone. I took a seat on the opposite side of the table, as far from them as possible.
Olivia, refill the water pitcher.
No one spoke.
Robert Walsh cleared his throat and opened a thick folder. Thank you all for coming. I will now read the last will and testament of Harold James Mitchell, deceased.
He put on his reading glasses.
I, Harold James Mitchell, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my final will and testament.
The room was silent.
To my daughter, Linda Chen, I leave nothing. You made your choices long ago. Live with them.
Mom's face went white.
To Madison Chen, I leave nothing. I have no obligation to those who share no blood with me.
Madison shot up from her chair.
Olivia, clear the plates.
What the hell does that mean?
Robert Walsh held up his hand. Please, allow me to continue.
Madison sat back down, fuming.
To my granddaughter, Olivia Chen, I leave the entirety of my estate. This includes my home in Portland Heights valued at $2.3 million. My investment portfolio valued at $7.4 million. My savings accounts totaling $2.3 million. Total estate value $12 million.
$12 million. The number echoed in my head. $12 million.
Additionally, Robert continued, I leave Olivia a letter to be read aloud in the presence of all parties. This was Grandpa Harold's specific request.
He pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age. My grandfather's handwriting on the front, for Olivia the truth. Madison never lifted a finger. She would sit there telling stories about her day while our parents listened with rapt attention. Every word she said was fascinating. Every joke she made was hilarious.
Robert handed it to me. He wanted you to read it yourself.
My hands were trembling as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, 3 pages, handwritten. I took a deep breath and began to read. My dearest Olivia, if you are reading this letter, it means 2 things. First, I am gone, and second, you have finally freed yourself from the people who hurt you. I am so proud of you. What I am about to tell you will be painful, but you deserve the truth. You have always deserved the truth. You are the only biological child of Richard and Linda Chen. When I spoke, eyes glazed over within 30 seconds. Mom would check her phone. Dad would stare at his plate. Madison would sigh dramatically like my voice was physically painful to hear. Madison is not your father's daughter. 29 years ago, before your parents were married, your mother had an affair. His name was Michael Hayes. He was her first love, a man she never truly got over. When your mother discovered she was pregnant, she was already engaged to your father. She didn't know whose child she was carrying. She chose to stay silent and hope for the best. You and Madison were born on the same day, fraternal twins, the doctor said. But your father suspected the truth from the beginning. Madison looked nothing like him. Nothing like anyone in our family. When you were 2 years old, your father secretly conducted a paternity test. The results confirmed his suspicions. Madison was not his biological daughter. But here is where the story takes its cruel turn. Your father did not leave your mother. He did not expose her secret. Instead, he made a choice born of anger and spite. He decided to love Madison. Only Madison. The child who was not his. Why to punish your mother? To make her watch as the child she bore out of guilt received all the love while her husband's true daughter was treated like a stranger. Your mother knew what he was doing, but she was trapped by her own guilt. She poured her love into Madison, the child she feared would be abandoned if the truth came out. She convinced herself that you were strong, that you didn't need her. So I stopped speaking. And so you, innocent, blameless, you became a casualty of their war. I watched this happen for 28 years. I saw how they treated you. I saw the light in your eyes slowly dim. It broke my heart. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I was afraid. Afraid of destroying your family. Afraid of hurting you more. I was a coward, and I am sorry. But now, from beyond the grave, I give you what I should have given you long ago, the truth. You were never the problem, Olivia. You were never unworthy. You were never unlovable. You were a pawn in a game played by two selfish people who should have known better. $12 million cannot undo 28 years of pain. But I hope it gives you freedom. Freedom to live the life you deserve. Freedom to build a family that loves you the way you should have been loved. You are my greatest joy, Olivia. You always have been. I love you. I became the quiet one, the easy one, the daughter who never caused problems because she never asked for anything. Grandpa Harold. P.S. The wooden box I gave you contains a key. It opens a safety deposit box at First Republic Bank in Portland. Inside, you will find all the evidence letters, the original paternity test, my journals. If anyone disputes this, will you have everything you need? I finished reading. The room was silent. I looked up. Mom was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. Dad stared at the table, his jaw clenched so tight I thought it might shatter. Madison's face was frozen in shock. Her mouth hung open. No words came out. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. For 28 years, I had asked one question: why? I told myself it was fine. Some children are simply loved less. Maybe I wasn't lovable. Maybe there was something wrong with me that I couldn't see but everyone else could. Now I knew. When I walked into that room, every head turned. My mother's face went white. She knew. Finally, she knew. The silence lasted 17 seconds. I counted. Then Madison exploded.
This is a lie.
She slammed her hands on the table.
This is a disgusting, pathetic lie.
She turned to Mom, her face red with fury.
Tell them, Mom. Tell them this is fake. Tell them I'm Dad's daughter.
I convinced myself that if I just tried harder, got better grades, cleaned the house more, smiled brighter, they would eventually notice me. Mom didn't move, didn't speak. She just sat there, tears rolling down her cheeks, staring at nothing.
Mom.
Madison's voice cracked.
Say something.
It's true.
The words came from Dad. His voice was flat, empty, like a man who had been holding a weight for decades and had finally let it drop.
Madison spun toward him. What?
It's true.
Dad still wouldn't look at anyone. His eyes were fixed on the mahogany table. They never did.
I've known since you were 2 years old.
The color drained from Madison's face.
No.
She shook her head.
No, no, no. You're my dad. You've always been my dad. You love me. You chose me.
I chose you to hurt her.
Dad's voice was barely a whisper.
I chose you to punish your mother for what she did.
Madison stumbled backward. Her legs hit the chair and she collapsed into it.
This isn't real.
I always thought I wasn't good enough. The photo wall grew over the years. By the time I was 15, there were 47 frames. Her voice was small now, childlike.
This can't be real.
I watched this unfold like a spectator at a play. These people, my family, were strangers to me now. Their pain was not my pain. Their drama was not my drama. But I had one thing left to say. I stood up. Mom! She flinched at the sound of my voice. Look at me. Slowly, she raised her head. Her mascara had streaked down her cheeks. She looked old, broken. You knew. Madison was in 45. My voice was calm, steady. You knew what Dad was doing. You knew he was punishing you through me, and you let him.
Olivia, die.
You let your innocent daughter suffer for your mistake. For 28 years, you watched me cry on my birthdays. You watched me work 3 jobs while Madison lived rent-free. You watched me beg for your love and gave me nothing.
I thought you were strong.
Her voice was a whisper.
I thought you didn't need me.
I was a child, Mom. I needed you more than anyone. She broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands, shoulders shaking. I felt nothing. I was in 2, the same 2 from when I was 6. I turned to Dad. And you. He finally looked at me. His eyes were red, hollow. I was your daughter, your only biological child, your flesh and blood. I stepped closer to him. And you chose to love the child who wasn't yours just to hurt your wife.
I was angry.
For 28 years. You were angry for 28 years. He said nothing. No one had taken a new photo of me in 9 years. Do you know what it's like to grow up believing you're worthless? To spend every day wondering what you did wrong. To watch your sister get everything while you get nothing. And be told it's because you're not special enough. My voice cracked, but I kept going. I didn't do anything wrong. I was a baby, an innocent baby who just wanted her father to love her. And you used me as a weapon in your pathetic war with Mom. Dad's face crumpled. For the first time in my life, I saw my father cry.
I'm sorry.
His voice broke.
Olivia, I'm so sorry.
Sorry doesn't give me my childhood back. Sorry doesn't erase 28 years of feeling invisible. Sorry doesn't fix what you broke. I stepped back. Madison was still sitting in her chair staring at the floor. Her whole world had shattered in minutes. I didn't exist in the visual history of my own family. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. She was a victim too, in a way. She had been used, loved not for who she was, but as a tool for revenge. But then I remembered every cruel word she had said to me. Every birthday she had celebrated while I sat alone. Every time she had called me jealous, dramatic, pathetic. She had been complicit in my suffering. Even if she didn't know the full truth, she had enjoyed watching me hurt. I walked toward her. Madison. She looked up. Her eyes were swollen, mascara smeared across her cheeks. I don't blame you for the circumstances of your birth. That wasn't your fault. She blinked, surprised. But I do blame you for how you treated me. You knew I was suffering. You knew Mom and Dad ignored me, and instead of showing kindness, you rubbed it in my face. Every chance you got.
Her lip trembled.
I was there. I lived in that house. I ate at that table. I breathed the same air.
I didn't know.
You didn't know the whole truth. But you knew enough, and you chose cruelty anyway. I straightened my shoulders. I'm not here for revenge. I'm not here to gloat. Grandpa's money doesn't make me happy, it just gives me freedom. Freedom I earned by walking away from all of you. I looked at each of them, Mom still crying, Dad staring at his hands, Madison broken and lost. This is the last time we will see each other. I'm not going to sue anyone. I'm not going to fight over anything. I just want you out of my life. Permanently.
Olivia, please.
Mom reached toward me.
We can fix this. We can be a family again. I'll do anything.
You had 28 years to do something. But looking at that wall, you would never know I existed at all. I stepped away from her hand. You chose not to. That choice has consequences. I picked up my purse. I have a life now. A real life. With people who love me, not because of guilt, not because of obligation, but because they choose to. I have a career I'm proud of. I have friends who remember my birthday. I have a man who would move across the country just to be with me. I walked toward the door. I don't need your apologies. I don't need your explanations. I don't need your money. Grandpa already took care of that. I stopped at the threshold and looked back one last time. What I needed was parents who loved me, a sister who supported me, a family that saw me. I shook my head slowly. You couldn't give me that, so I found it somewhere else. I felt like a ghost in my own home, present but invisible, breathing but not alive. I opened the door. Goodbye. I walked out without looking back. Behind me, I heard Mom calling my name. I heard Madison crying. I heard Dad's chair scrape against the floor. I didn't stop. I kept walking, through the hallway, past the reception desk, out the front door, into the cold Portland air. I got into my rental car, started the engine, pulled away from the curb, and I smiled. For the first time in my life, I wasn't asking for permission. I wasn't apologizing. I was done. 6 months have passed since that day in Portland. I didn't know it then, but that summer would change everything. 6 months of peace, 6 months of healing, 6 months of finally learning what it means to be whole. I kept Grandpa Harold's house in Portland Heights. I couldn't bring myself to sell it. Too many good memories lived within those walls, summers spent reading on the porch, afternoons baking cookies in the kitchen, evenings listening to his stories by the fireplace. I hired a property manager to maintain it. Maybe someday I'll retire there. Maybe I'll turn it into a retreat for young medical students who need a quiet place to study. Grandpa would have liked that. The rest of the inheritance sits in investments. I donated $3 million to establish the Harold Mitchell Scholarship Fund for first-generation medical students. Every year, 5 students will receive full scholarships to pursue their dreams, the same dreams my grandfather helped me achieve. The first recipients were announced last month. I cried when I read their applications. Kids from broken homes, kids who worked multiple jobs, kids who were told they weren't smart enough, good enough, special enough. Kids like me. My fellowship at Cleveland Clinic is going better than I ever imagined. Last month, I performed my first solo interventional procedure, a complex coronary angioplasty on a 67-year-old grandmother. She survived. Her family cried. I cried too. This is why I became a doctor. Not for the money, not for the prestige, but for moments like that, moments where I can give someone more time with the people they love. James proposed 3 weeks ago. We were sitting in our garden. Biscuit was chasing butterflies. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. March 14th, our birthday, the day that reminded me every single year exactly where I stood in this family. He got down on one knee. Olivia Chen, he said, his voice steady, but his hands trembling. You are the strongest, kindest, most resilient person I have ever known. You have taught me what it means to overcome, what it means to heal, what it means to choose yourself. He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a simple diamond ring, elegant, perfect. I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you. Will you marry me? I said yes before he finished the question. We're planning a small wedding, 30 guests, a garden ceremony. Rachel will be my maid of honor. Dr. Williams will walk me down the aisle, the closest thing I have to a father now. My biological father won't be there. Neither will my mother. Neither will Madison. I heard about them through distant relatives, bits and pieces that float through the family grapevine. Mom and Dad filed for divorce 2 months after the will reading. 29 years of marriage destroyed in a single afternoon. Mom moved back to her hometown in Oregon. Dad stayed in Seattle alone in that big Bellevue house. Madison spiraled. She tried to find her biological father, Michael Hayes. She tracked him down in California. He wanted nothing to do with her. He had his own family now, his own children. Madison was a secret he had buried decades ago. Turns out I was the only one who was ever good enough. But they chose to throw me away anyway. When Madison and I turned 15, my parents threw her a surprise party at the Capitol Grill downtown. 30 guests, a DJ, a 3-tier cake from the French bakery on 5th Avenue, the one that charged $200 just for delivery. She came back to Seattle more broken than before. Last I heard, she was living in a small apartment, working as a receptionist, drowning in debt. The influencer dream was dead. The princess had finally been dethroned. Part of me feels sorry for her. She was a pawn too loved, not for herself, but as an instrument of punishment. Her entire identity was built on a lie. But compassion doesn't mean reconciliation. She made her choices. She treated me with cruelty when kindness would have cost her nothing. She laughed at my pain. She reveled in my invisibility. I forgive her for my own peace, not for hers. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to let her back into my life. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. Mom sent me a letter last month. 12 pages of apologies, explanations, excuses, begging for another chance. I read it once. Then I put it in a drawer and never looked at it again. Maybe someday, years from now, I'll be ready to have a conversation with her. Maybe I'll reach a place where I can look at her without seeing all the years she stole from me. Madison wore a new dress. Vera Wang, $450. Mom had taken her shopping the week before, just the two of them. A mother-daughter bonding trip, she called it. But that day is not today. And it may never come. I've learned that healing doesn't require their participation. It doesn't require their apology. It doesn't require their presence in my life. Healing only requires my decision to move forward. And I have moved forward. Last week was my 29th birthday, March 14th. The day that used to fill me with dread now fills me with joy. James threw me a party. 30 people packed into our small house, colleagues, friends, neighbors, people who have become my family. The cake was chocolate with raspberry, filling my favorite. The frosting read, "Happy birthday, Olivia, our favorite doctor." Rachel gave a toast. "To Olivia," she said, raising her glass. "The woman who taught me that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about putting yourself back together every time you do. I'm honored to call you my friend, and I'm even more honored to stand beside you as you marry the love of your life." I wasn't invited. Everyone cheered. I cried. Happy tears this time, the only kind I cry anymore. After the party, James and I sat on the porch. The stars were out. Biscuit was snoring at our feet. "What are you thinking about?" James asked. "Grandpa Harold." "What about him?" I pulled out the letter he had given me at my college graduation, the one I had kept in my wallet for 11 years. The edges were worn now, the paper soft from being touched so many times. He told me I was worthy of love. I traced my finger over his handwriting. I didn't believe him then. I thought he was just being kind. And now, I looked at James, at the house we had built together, at the life I had created. Now I know he was right. The party started at 7 in the evening. I sat in my tiny room listening to the bass thumping through the floor. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. I leaned my head on James's shoulder. I spent 28 years looking for love in the wrong places, begging for scraps from people who had none to give, believing that if I just tried harder, worked more, achieved greater things, they would finally see me. And what did you learn? I smiled. I learned that the people who are meant to love you don't need to be convinced, they just do. Freely, fully, without conditions. James kissed my forehead. You deserve every bit of it, Liv. I know, I closed my eyes, I finally know. Above us, a shooting star streaked across the sky. I didn't make a wish. At 9:30, I walked downstairs. I thought maybe someone would notice me. Maybe someone would remember. For the first time in my life, I didn't need to. I already had everything I needed. Family isn't blood. Family is the people who choose to love you and let you love them back. Sometimes setting boundaries with the people who raised you is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. You are worthy of love. You always have been. Don't let anyone make you believe otherwise. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to set a boundary with family? How did it change your life? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more stories like this, check out the video in the description. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it. 30 people in my living room. Not one of them looked at me. I found Mom in the kitchen arranging cupcakes on a silver tray. Mom, I said quietly, it's my birthday too.
She didn't look up. I know, honey. There's a cupcake for you in the fridge.
What my grandfather revealed in that letter changed everything. Not just about my family, but about who I really am. One cupcake, store-bought, from Safeway, the kind that came in a plastic container for $3.99. I opened the fridge. There it was. A single chocolate cupcake with a crooked candle stuck in the center. No name, no message. Just a candle that had clearly been used before the wick was already black. I took it to my room. I lit the candle with a match I found in my desk drawer. I sang happy birthday to myself, barely above a whisper so no one would hear. I made a wish. I wished that someday someone would remember me. Then I blew out the candle and ate the cupcake alone, listening to Madison's party rage on beneath me. That same week, Mom bought Madison a Coach purse, $400.
For doing so well in school, she said.
Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Also, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Drop a comment below. Madison had a 2.8 GPA. I had a 4.0. I had made honor roll every semester since 6th grade. No one mentioned it. 2 years later, everything got worse. Senior year, college application season, the most important year of my life. I worked harder than I had ever worked before. I studied until 2 in the morning. I took 7 AP classes. I volunteered at the hospital every weekend. I wrote my personal essay 14 times until every word was perfect. And it paid off. I got into Stanford University. Full scholarship, 4 years of tuition, room, and board completely covered. The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I ran downstairs, my hands shaking, my heart pounding. Mom, Dad, I got in.